In November 1971, a nondescript man in his 40s used cash to buy a one-way ticket from Portland, Oregon, to Seattle. Once on the plane, the man using the name Dan Cooper instructed a stewardess via handwritten note that he had a bomb. He showed the bomb to her and asked that she deliver his demands to the pilot. Cooper wanted $200,000 in $20 bills, along with 4 parachutes. When the plane landed, Cooper made good on his end of the bargain, releasing all 36 passengers but keeping several crew members. He then ordered the plane to Mexico City. A confirmed Christian, Lutheran pastor, teacher, and convicted felon, Michael Bray believes that the killing of those who actively assist in abortions is justified. In the early 1980s, Bray participated in the bombings of abortion clinics and was charged with conspiracy as well as possessing unregistered explosive devices. Bray maintains that while nonviolence may be a strategy, using force is also an option with which he is comfortable. After serving 4 years for his crimes, Bray returned to his suburban home, where he is still an active pastor and teacher. Donna Joan Boric joined a terrorist group called the May 19th Communist Organization. The group hoped to work for worldwide racial equality but also advocated a violent revolution against the United States government in favor of communism. Boric was initially arrested in 1981 but fled trial and was last seen in eastern New York State. She is still unaccounted for and is considered armed and dangerous. Could the foundation of the United States of America have much to owe to an early act of domestic terrorism? Fed up with continued British interference with their businesses and wallets, dozens of colonists dressed as Native Americans dumped 342 crates of tea into Boston Harbor on December 16, 1773. This act is the very definition of terrorism, as they intended to force the East India Company and Britain to revoke their latest sets of taxes after seeing the lengths the colonists would go to in order to resist what they saw as unlawful interference. Wisconsin may be most famed for its dedication to cheese, but a native son found he had more of an appetite for destruction than dairy. Leo Bert is currently wanted for the 1970 bombing of Sterling Hall on the campus of the University of Wisconsin. The FBI alleges that Bert was involved in the theft of a van that was then loaded with explosives and parked in front of Sterling Hall. When the explosives detonated, the fire it created left one young researcher dead and the University of Wisconsin with over $6 million in damages. With $1 million bounty on his head, Eric Rudolph eluded capture for his acts of domestic terrorism for more than half a decade. From a devout but anti-Semitic Christian family, Rudolph translated his anger into an intense hatred for abortion and the US government. He sought to take out those he hated through numerous bombings: an abortion clinic in Birmingham, a gay club, a second abortion clinic, both in Atlanta, and most famously, the 1996 Centennial Olympic Park bombing. Rudolph was found guilty and is currently serving life in prison. Ted Katz Insky is more commonly known as the Unabomber, an acronym created by the FBI to describe the tactics of this American terrorist. Unabomber described Katz Insky's university and airline bombing targets. His attacks began in 1978 at a Chicago university and eventually developed into a series of hand-delivered or mailed explosive devices that resulted in over 24 injuries and killed 3 American citizens. Katz Insky confessed and is currently housed in a supermax prison in Colorado. The privileged heiress to the Hearst publishing empire, Patty Hearst, was kidnapped at gunpoint by the terrorist organization known as the Symbionese Liberation Army, SLA, in 1974. Since her release, Hearst has become an author, actress, wife, and mother, but questions still linger about her true allegiance. Is she the unfortunate pawn of terrorists or the classic poor little rich girl who has masterfully profited from her sensational choices? In 1886, working conditions for average Americans were bleak. Many men, women, and children worked more than 12 hours a day without safety precautions in jobs that paid less than $1 a day. A statue stands at Haymarket Square in remembrance of the police officers who lost their lives, and a similar statue was erected in 1893 for the 4 men who, through the loss of their lives, brought national attention to the labor movement. An ordinary man parked his horse-drawn cart across from the J.P. Morgan building in New York City on September 16, 1920. Several minutes after the cart driver seemingly disappeared, the cart exploded, killing 30 and wounding over 300 bystanders on the crowded New York streets. No charges were pressed in this mystery, and sadly, this would not be the last act of terrorism to plague New York on an early September morning, as the 11 September terrorist attacks would occur almost to the date 81 years later.